Alright, tonight guys, I'm going to be taking a look at the Topping A30 Pro and D30 Pro stack. These were sent to me by Apos.com and their audio website store. I don't get to keep any of this. I don't get paid or any of that. They just send it to me to try it out and do a review on it. They obviously don't tell me what to say or any of that. And if you haven't been over to their website and you like audio stuff, I highly recommend checking it out. They have a free shipping, price match guarantee, 2-year warranty, and probably one of my favorite things that a lot of websites don't do is they have a 45-day return policy, which can be a big deal with audio gear because a lot of it anymore, there's nowhere to go try it out and see if you like it before you buy it, kind of thing, or even get to try it at home. So it's nice that you can buy something, try it out for, about a month or so, see if you like it. And, if you do, great. If not, you can send it back and try something else. And then they also have a, down here in the corner, you can click this little messenger thing. If you have questions about any of the audio gear or just questions in general on hooking things up and stuff like that, you can do their live chat and they'll try to help you out with buying decisions or just try to help you answer your questions. So that's pretty cool as well. Anyway, back to the gear. With the A30 Pro, the amplifier, it is a headphone amplifier. The D30 Pro is a DAC preamp. The A30 Pro, you get a manual power cord and a adapter. The manual pretty much comes folded up like an old road map, but it's pretty nice. A lot of these Chinese or Chi-Fi companies, however you want to say it, whatever, they at least provide specs, audio precision specs with their gear, which is nice. For a lot of people, it's not going to mean much, but if you actually, it doesn't take much to learn what these charts show. And it just also backs up their performance, where a lot of the prestigious, snobby, pretentious audio gear, they don't provide measurements for nothing. It's all top secret. It's passed down knowledge from some old geezer or something, And then they also provide good instructions on what everything is, and then also more in-depth specs, which is great for people like me and people that are more on a objective side of performance than a subjective side of performance. However you want to do that. So, good manual. We'll look right at the amp here from the outside. As you can see, it's got a lot of holes, vents, side, top, side, bottom, everywhere. It does, it gets a little warm. Nothing to be concerned with though. Then on the front here, you have your, basically it's your power switch. It's off, and then XLR input, RCA input. And then you can see there's a nice little power indicator there. Actually, here, I can plug it in real quick. So you can see, you'll hear a nice little click too once it's turned on. We'll switch it up to XLR. Oh, hold on. Alright, I'll switch it up to XLR, and you should hear a nice little click as well, other than the switch, like a relay inside. You can see there's a nice little white, very unobtrusive LED there, just enough to let you know it's on. And there's also RCA, and back to off. And then your gain, you have low, medium, high, and that is negative 14 dB, 0, plus 14 dB. So it has a 28 dB swing, which is pretty big. So when you, depending on what your headphones are, be very careful about using high gain on this. Everything I tested with it, medium was fine. I think it was my CCA C10 Pro IEMs. I put it on low because medium was just too much. They're so sensitive. Low was more than enough for this. And then you get your 4-pin balanced headphone output on the front, 4.4 millimeter balanced, and then your 6 millimeter or 6.35 millimeter unbalanced headphone jack on the front. And that's where they provide the adapter to 3.5 millimeter if you need it. And then a very smooth analog volume knob. Feels great. Feels just like the vintage receivers would be similar. And then I'll unplug this on the back. You get your XLR balanced inputs and a set of RCA unbalanced inputs, and then you get a set of unbalanced RCA outputs and a set of TRS balanced outputs. And that is because when this is in the off position, say you have it turned on, you're using your headphones, you listen to headphones to, say, monitor some audio tracks or something, but you want to switch over and try it on your actual monitor speakers on your desk, you can switch this to off. And what that does is it doesn't actually turn it off, puts it in a standby, but then these outputs on the back become a pass-through. So whatever's coming in, you could run these TRS balanced output to some studio monitors, and that even when this is off, it'll turn off the headphone output, so your headphones will shut off, but it will continue to pass the audio signal through to a set of monitors or speakers or another amplifier or whatever you want. So that's pretty neat. So that should make it easy to switch back and forth. You listen to it on the external speakers or monitors or whatever, okay? You can go back, flip this back to your position, put your headphones back on, and listen to it. So it should make it pretty easy to switch back and forth between your headphones and other gear to listen to stuff, which is pretty cool. And then you get this switch here. It says ground and lift. What this does is when having this all hooked up, whether you're using balanced or unbalanced, you can get some ground noise or buzzing sometimes from other equipment or just from grounding inconsistencies or something. What you can do is when this is set to ground, it is grounded to its own chassis. If you switch this to lift, it changes it so it's grounded to what it's connected to, which will usually get rid of that issue. So that's pretty cool. I have not seen that on that or the pass-through on a lot of other equipment that I've reviewed. Maybe it's something you might find more in professional gear that's trickling down into more consumer gear. I don't know. Or they added it to this consumer gear to make it a little more professional, because the quality and the build quality, the sound quality, everything of these could definitely be used in a professional setting. Then as far as power, we'll go over some specs and stuff here now. We've had a rundown on the amp itself. 6 watts per channel into 16 ohms, which is a lot of power. That does come down to 840 milliwatts per channel by 300 ohms. That's still a lot of power, and you still have your medium to high gain. This should have no problem running 300, 600 ohm headphones. Should be able to drive them plenty fine, or however you want to say it. More than enough power, put it that way. At full power, since it's got so much power, it'll supposedly, at max power at 1 kilohertz, it'll do 145 dB of dynamic range, which is excellent. Except for I don't think there's any headphones or any human ears that can handle that. But it's a cool number to have be able to achieve that many decibels of dynamic range. Say goodbye to ground loop noise. We went over that. That was that ground switch on the back we looked at. And then the single-ended and balanced input pass-through, which I talked about that with the pass-through with the analog and or unbalanced and TRS outputs. We went over the gain switch on the front. It is specifically meant to be paired with the D30 Pro DAC, which you doesn't have to. You could obviously hook any DAC to it you want, probably, but obviously they try to pair these together. THD plus noise is an incredible 0.00006%. Pretty much nothing. Nothing you're going to hear. If you're getting any noise, it's not from this. Unless you're in high gain. I noticed certain headphones, that didn't really need it, or you're a little too drunk and cranking it up and you use the high gain, you will get a little bit of hiss. But medium and low is dead silent. Dead silent. Which is really nice for those kinds of audio tracks that have the, I don't know, a lot of silence or slow parts in them that are very quiet. You get to really experience the depth, because just there's no noise. With a really good pair of isolating, like over ears or something, and a good audio track, it's pretty impressive. Oh, I'm not going to go over all the specifications because there's quite a few. The other thing I do like about Apos is they do a good job of pulling a lot of the content and specs and everything right from Topping. So you're getting pretty much as much information is available, and it helps that Topping themselves and some of these other brands like SMSL and and I don't know, I can't think of all of them right now, but they've been getting much better at listing and making all their specs and measurements and everything available. And Apos does a good job of importing those specs and descriptions onto their site, so you don't have to run all over the place trying to get all the information. You can get good high quality pictures and good information all in one place. We already went over distortion or THD. Frequency response, balanced or unbalanced, is 20 hertz to 40 kilohertz, or 20 hertz to 40 kilohertz or 40,000 hertz at plus or minus 0.05 dB. So not much swing in there. That's really good. Yeah, just tons and tons of measurements. So if you like work in a studio or you work with other precision audio gear and you need to know these specs to integrate this equipment into your setup, they should be able to provide everything you need to know. Channel crosstalk, unbalanced is negative 106 and balanced is negative 101. So you're not going to hear any crosstalk between the channels on this. And we already went over the gain. Basically what it comes down to for 300, what is this thing? I think it's 350. Wait, I had it right here. Yeah, $350. You can get it in black or silver. I actually preferred black. They sent me silver, and now I prefer silver. The silver looked nice sitting on my desk under a warm light. The silver looked pretty cool. But basically what it comes down to, the A30 Pro is just an incredible headphone deck. Just super. The thing is now the stuff is getting so good. The specs are so good. The equipment is not even close to the issue anymore. Now it's the headphones you're using or the source material, what you're feeding into it, and what is reproducing the signal it's putting out. It says somewhere in the description, but this thing is able to, because all things considered, it outputs 99.94% of the signal put in. So damn near 100% perfect of the signal that comes in gets put back out analog, which is really just, this equipment is getting so good. It makes it harder to compare to when you listen to it. Some of it does, even though these numbers are incredible, they can still sometimes seem to put a little bit of their own flavor to the sound a bit, as far as maybe a little bit more neutral or warm or cool natively. This seems pretty just neutral. It doesn't seem necessarily overly warm or cool or whatever subjective audiophile term you want to use. It just seems where it should be, just very neutral. And then from there you can, manipulate your audio signal to change that. But just an excellent headphone amplifier. Now let's get into the DAC. The DAC manual. You get a manual. You get a power cord. You get a USB cord, and you get the classic remote. Power, mute, your navigation, volume up and down, select forward and back, and then the middle is like, it brings up the menu. Not all the buttons necessarily do something on here. I don't remember because I didn't even use them all. I have the thing on my desk, so I pretty much just the only thing I used on it once I had it set was the volume. So, but yeah, nice little remote. They've been using these remotes for a while. They're good little remotes. And then put this manual off the side for a second. As far as the USB, I use this. It's a very standard USB, I think Type A to Type B or whatever, which is what I prefer for hooking DAX computers. I don't like DAX that have the micro USB, but I have this real fancy audiophile grade USB cable here. It's so fat and juicy and, you know, shielded like 9,000 times and has eagle tears on it and, you know, gold from the mines of Japan and, you know, ferrite magnets from Mars and all this stuff. And tried this versus the standard USB cable they provided, and actually it didn't do shit. So that was fun. I keep it around just to try it, but all these measurements and tests and stuff they don't do with a fancy cable like that. They just do it with a standard USB cable. So hopefully, unless you want to waste your money on a fancy cable because they look cool or something, that's fine. But I went back and forth, and nothing. Didn't seem to make any difference at all. So we'll go over the front of this one. We'll plug it in a second. Nice large display. Aluminum housing, just like the other one, very thick. Nice little rubber feet on the bottom. Nice clicky but smooth volume knob. That's nice. Also is a button, power on and power off, and then power on, I believe. Then once it's on, you can click it and go through the menu. And then to turn off, I think you hold it down to power it off. And then on the back, you have your XLR or balanced output, your unbalanced or RCA output, and then over here is your digital inputs, your coax, optical, and USB, AC, and main power switch. And if I didn't mention it, the back of the D30 here also has the same thing, AC and just a main power switch. So when the main is on, they're just in standby. They're not actually off. All right, let's plug it in so we can look at the menu. All right, once it's plugged in, you got to flip the switch. And before we do that, I'll show you how to get into the, I don't know if they call it like the default menu or, hold on, let me look in the manual here. Also, the manual for this it's like a big roadmap. While we're bringing out the manual, I'll kind of hold it out here so you can see it. Which is fine. They seem to give you pretty much all the information you need. Just need to find the English. All right. They call it the setup menu. The initial setup menu. So what you're going to do to get into that, you're going to want your main power switch off. You're going to hold, hopefully this works right. You're going to hold the front button down, hold it down, flip that on, let go. Did it not work? It didn't work. All right, let's try it again. Power off. Hold that down. Power on. There we go. All right, that's the first thing that comes up is the filter mode. I think it has like 7 filter modes. Get out the old road map here. There's 5 filter modes. I guess I could just sort through them. Oh, of course, on here it has 8. 9? What is this? What is this? Oh, I'm not supposed to have 9. Hold the phone. What's going on here? Where's the... Well, I don't know. Maybe someone else can answer that. But even in the manual, as shown on the screen, it's only 5. F1 through F5. Huh. That's showing up to 9. I'll leave it on, I think, 2 is default. So we'll just leave it on 2. And you click it, and that goes to your next thing. That's L. That's the brightness of the display, I think. There you go. Goes all the way up to 4. We'll just leave it on 2. It's bright enough you guys can see it. Or 3. There, we'll do 3. Next is A0 and AC. A0, looking this up for you guys so you don't have to look at my manual. A-0 is auto on, which is default, and A-C is auto off. So depending whether you want to auto on or auto off, I'm just going to leave it on auto on. And then, is that it? Oh, 0-1. Oh, yes, this is where it can do the dual outputs if you want, depending. We'll get to this maybe again later, but you have your RCA outputs, unbalanced RCA out, and balanced XLR out. And you can either do one or the other, or you can do both. So the 0-1 is RCA out only. 0-2 is XLR output only, and 0-3, which is default, is XLR and or RCA and XLR out simultaneously. So if you want to connect it to 2 pieces of gear at the same time, have it output to 2 different things at the same time, you can do that, or just one or the other. 0-3 is the default on that, and then when you're done, the next is it's supposed to be M-P per amp mode, so volume adjustable. So this is where you pick between preamp, P for preamp, or M-D for DAC. Now, depending how you're going to use this, like when I'm using it with this, I don't need it to be in a preamp mode because this has its own volume. I mean, I suppose you could and set the amp volume to where you want it at max. Like set this as like a max gain like you would on a professional amplifier, and then control the volume with the preamp. But I think it's better to, if you're going to be using it with an amplifier like this that has its own volume knob, you would set it to M-D for DAC. Now, if you're going to use something like this for, say, like as a preamp to like a crown amplifier or something like that, then you would probably want to use it on preamp mode, because with the power amps stuff, you're going to want to set your left and right channel gain to where you want it, or max, and then control the volume with this via obviously preamp. But in the stack scenario, DAC is better, and basically all that does is it just sets it to its 2 volt output, so maximum or standard output level. So we'll leave it on that, and then it just goes back to that, back to the beginning. I think when you're done, you just press and hold it down until it shows 2/8, then you let go, and it shuts off and it's done. And you can see the little orange light on here, it's in standby mode. So to turn it back on, you just click. Now it goes into the regular menu, and we're in USB mode, optical, coax, back to USB. And then also right here it says DAC. If it's in the M-P preamp mode, this will change and it'll say pre, I believe, instead of DAC. So you know. And then when you hook this to your computer, whatever coax, optical, USB, whatever source you're feeding it or set it to, that sampling rate will show up here on the screen, which is nice. And it's a very good size screen, so having this sitting on your desk or even several feet away, you can still read the screen, which is pretty nice. I'm glad they're doing bigger displays on a lot of the stuff now. So let's get into the specs on the D30 Pro. Again, there's a lot of specs. I'm not going to go over all of them. Priced at $400. Also comes in black or silver. Yeah, it says a quad DAC with scorching specs. I would agree with that. The specs on this, like a lot of this new stuff, the specs are just getting so good. They're getting so good at making this stuff. Quad DAC has 4 Cirrus Logic DACs in it. The CS43198, if you wanted to know. The fantastic result of this includes a signal-to-noise ratio of 132 dB in a DNR, or dynamic range, I believe, of 132 dB. And your PCM, which is your standard audio format that pretty much everything is, it'll do via USB up to 32-bit 384 kilohertz, which is fantastic. Too bad there's no music out there really, for 32-bit, really, or even 24-bit. Most 24-bit music's upsampled and remastered. It's not actually 24-bit. And DSD 256. This is again via USB with the Exmos and Thesicon drivers. And the nice thing about that is some of this older stuff you had to install that used Exmos. You had to install a driver or something to get it to work with Windows, which really wasn't a big deal. But a lot of the new stuff, you don't even have to do it anymore. Plug it in seconds, it pops right up Windows, it's ready to go. So that's really nice. I plugged in, I had Windows 10 on my computer, plugged it in, popped right up, ready to go. Now your distortion or your THD plus noise says as low as, so it's going to depend on what you're doing at the moment, but up to 0.00009%, just super low distortion. Really incredible. Also doubles as a preamp. We went over that. Selectable output port. The RCA and XLR. It says they maintain both RCA and XLR above 120 decibels of synad, which is great. Very good. Made to pair with the topping A30 Pro headphone amp, which we just talked about, of course. For coax and optical, this is pretty typical, but for coax and optical, PCM is 16-bit to 24-bit, 44.1 up to 192. That's really standard. But DSD on coax and optical, for like the 10 people out there that use DSD, it only does DSD 64 on that. So most people are probably going to use USB anymore. USB's kind of made some really big leaps in the last decade with audio quality. Most of this equipment now, it does its best measurements and best performance from a USB input. So coax and optical, optical especially still has its place as being kind of immune to noise, but really USB's kind of taken over. Your signal to noise ratio, A-weighted, unbalanced, 127 dB, XLR, 132 dB. Again, just pushing, far as being able to, whether you could hear it or not, or actually utilize it or not, pushing close to that 144 dB or decibels of dynamic range of 24-bit audio even. Because, was it the 6 dB per... So 24-bit, 6 dB per bit. So yeah, it'd be 144 decibels of dynamic range to fully resolve 24-bit audio. Which, as far as I know, there's no system out there that can do it. And well, if you push anything that loud, it's pretty instant hearing loss. Again, same as the amplifier, the DAC is 20 to 40 kilohertz or 40,000 hertz, which I found interesting. I tried all these different filters. I flipped through them. I didn't really hear any difference. And anytime you do think you hear a difference, you try to run back through them again and catch it. And it's never really discernible, so you can't ever really say for sure if you're hearing a difference, because all the filter roll-offs are well beyond 20 kilohertz, and most of us that are buying this kind of stuff are maybe in our 20s, but probably middle-aged or older, and if probably lacking much beyond 15 kilohertz anymore. But the one filter 5, does stretch all the way out past 40 kilohertz here, but clear back here at even 32, by the time you get to 32 kilohertz, it's already down negative 10 dB. Because up here is 0. So by the time you get even to 32, you're down 10 dB. And then by the time you get out to 40, you're down 20 dB. So even if you have and it is out there, there's some music that's true 24-bit, 192, which is going to be able to reach clear out to 96 kilohertz. Even with this, you're not going to, you won't even know if you're hearing it or not, because you can't hear it. But I don't know. So I don't know why they put all these filters in. I guess some people may think that they make a difference. Other people, like me, don't seem to hear any sort of difference with them. So it's about as bad as a road map. All I'm saying is it says it can reach out that far, but there's only one filter in there that even reaches out really to like 25, 30, because by 32 it was rolling, negative 10 dB already. And then I think that's about it. Oh, Crosstalk is a little better than this. On balance is negative 116, and on balance is negative 145 dB Crosstalk. So I think once you really get beyond negative 100 decibels of Crosstalk, really for most people probably any better than negative 70 or 80, you're not going to hear it. It's just, that is so little, it's not going to be audible in any sort of way to the listener. So I've had these for a couple weeks. And I've really enjoyed them. I'm going to finish that thought. What I had them hooked together with is I have some nice shielded, I think they're seismic audio cables. Just so you can see how I ran it. Really, I like these cables. They're a little bit overkill for home audio. They're really heavy duty. But I like that you can get them in 1 foot lengths. And it's a really soft, thick, rubbery cable. And then some purple and gold XLRs. The plugs, of course, feel nice. Everything clicks in well. Very sturdy. Nothing seems loose. It looks pretty cool, But yeah, this is how I had it wired up for anyone that cares. And it's not like these cables are super expensive. I don't really remember what they cost, but it wasn't much. And I tried balanced versus unbalanced. I didn't have to mess with the ground switch at all. Balanced and unbalanced, I didn't really notice much difference. At least nothing that, if I can't discern it, like almost 100% every time, for sure, it's no good. I have to be able to discern it every time. And then I did go through a plethora of tracks, music that I listen to. Usually you can vary anywhere up to like 50 different songs and stuff. But my main album I focused on with these that I really liked was the Jackson Browne Running on Empty album. It's a very interesting album. It wasn't recorded in the studio. It was recorded on tour, on the road. Sometimes in the concert, sometimes in, I don't know, like green rooms and stuff, or just outside. It's a really, really interesting, well-recorded album. And there's, I think it's the second song. It's just dead quiet when they're starting to play. You can hear the crickets in the background. You don't even know there's an audience out there because it's so quiet. You can hear every little cricket, and then out of nowhere you can hear the people kind of start talking and then cheer as they start playing more. And the silence and everything, the low distortion, the really good synad of this equipment on music like that brings out, if you're really into that, you're really into scrutinizing your music when you listen to it, this is a kind of equipment you're probably going to need. I don't buy a lot of this stuff. I choose to spend my disposable income elsewhere. I use just more run-of-the-mill basic DACs for on my computer and stuff, but it is always a treat when Apos sends me this kind of stuff and I get to try it out. Unfortunately, I didn't even have a lot of my favorite headphones here. But what I did have, probably one of my favorite ones was the Koss. I did the Koss KPH-30i and KPH-40. Were both really good on it. And then the IMs were really good as well. The IMs really reached into that dead silent because they're so sensitive. Having this on low and still being able to turn the volume up and have no static and source material permitting, being able to really reach into that darkness on some tracks and stuff, and then having it explode into the musicians playing the dynamics and everything. It's really cool. So the whole stack is going to set you back $750, which, depending on how you look at audio gear, could be really cheap, or it could be expensive. It's like I said, it's more than I like to spend. I like to spend my disposable income on other things sometimes. But for other people that are used to spending, you know, a couple grand or something for some shiny, subjective piece of gear that they won't tell you anything about other than it's the best sounding thing ever and it's worth $5,000 for some reason because it's made of some special alloy or who knows what, you know, they're talking it up with. This could be nothing. But for people that are used to spending that kind of money, or you know, this is their main way they like to spend their income, this is not much for a really good DAC amp setup. It really is. So, if you have any other questions about it, them, or either one, like I said, you can always go bug the people at Apos. Go ask them some questions about it. Or that may pertain to your use case. You can ask me. I don't do a lot of professional stuff. I mostly just put it on my desk, plugged it into my computer, and use them to listen to music. I don't really do any audio production or anything like that, anything complicated. So yeah. Like and subscribe if you want. I don't get paid to do this. I just make videos kind of when I want to. I don't really prepare for them. I just kind of do them and share my experience. In these long form videos, I don't do the little 10-minute product pimping cookie cutter videos. Yeah. Have a good night, guys.